Hello everyone and welcome back to another edition of Streamtime Sports. I'm your host Nick Meacham and thrilled to be back once again after a frantic week or so in London. My first time back in nearly 6 months. Great to see both the SportsPro team in person after kind of time away, and great to see many of you stream timers on the ground there at the event. And for those that had the chance to make our live recording that we ran during the SportsPro live event, it was a lot of fun to do it in person. So thanks so much for joining us, and I hope you enjoyed the experience as much as I did. For those that did make it to SportsPro live, I have to say it was a pretty awesome experience there on the ground. We had well over 1,000 people join us over those 2 days. And we actually have another event which is dedicated to motorsport. That's immediately the day after, which was over 400 people for that. So I think we were approaching around 1,500 people across those couple of days, with a lot of the major sports teams, leagues, racing series, broadcasters all in attendance. So a lot to chew on and to learn about. And really, I think the biggest topics through the 2 days I kept hearing about, particularly relating to sports media, was around sports and sports properties really investing more time and more investment and more energy into building more powerful media operations and strategies in those teams and leagues, building out more robust offering. The maturation of digital monetization seems to be a really exciting and hot topic for people at the moment. And also this debate around whether to drive audiences to your own platforms versus prioritizing social media and going to where the audiences are. And just more generally, the overall overarching challenge of connecting with younger fans and really understanding what they actually want from us as an industry, and ultimately building stronger value with audiences. And one of my favorite sessions that covers a lot of these topics from the event was hearing from Nuria Tarré, who's the Chief Marketing Officer of the City Football Group, the owners of Manchester City and a number of different football teams across the world these days. I actually have lost count. But really, that conversation was all about how they have changed and evolved their approach with wider digital strategy and transformation as a business. And in this conversation that I'm going to share with you guys, she covers the full spectrum on how they've approached transforming themselves to engage with a wider and younger audience of fans. And Nuria talks about how they've used different approaches off-platform as well as driving audiences to their own channels. She also discusses how they've been able to evolve their brand and tone of voice and what other properties have inspired them from across the industry. And really, I think the whole brand position part is really an interesting part of their strategy and approach that stands out for me. As if you compare them with their Manchester neighbours, Manchester United, they're the dynamic ones, trying new things, first movers, happy to make strategic mistakes and learn from them quickly, and pushing growth to a younger set of audiences and really trying to build almost an entertainment brand. Whereas if you look at a club like Manchester United, huge and successful history, they have to be careful, so careful about every move they make. They have to be the slow followers, and intentionally slow, as to ensure they don't alienate or have a negative situation with their fan base, given the current state of the relationship they have with fans following various ownership and performance issues and challenges over the last few years. And so when listening to this conversation you're about to listen to, think about some of the approaches other brands in sports are making. And then if you think about the challenges that, say, a Man United might have, you can really start to get a real sense of why a transformation the likes of which City have gone through takes time, commitment, smart strategy, great culture, and the ability to be agile and make mistakes. But not all clubs and sports and properties are afforded such flexibility. I need to add, the voice you're going to hear asking the questions is Ed Abis, who's the CEO of Display, a great supporter of our events and indeed SportsPro more holistically, and a tech partner to Manchester City itself. Right, that's enough for me. It's time for me to hand over to Ed and Nuria Tarré of City Football Group.
Thanks for joining us today, Nuria. It's a pleasure for me to be able to talk about everything City. I guess we should probably start from the beginning, really, because obviously you've been in this role for a little while now, but the strategy around how you do what you do, the starting point, I guess. I know that you've had a clear strategy at the club since 2015. Do you think you could frame that up for us and give us a sense of how you think about that through the lens of fan engagement?
Yeah, sure. Well, hello everybody, and thank you for joining us here today. So I smile, by the way, every time I watch this video. I don't know. I find it funny, and probably we're gonna do a little bit more about that. But going back into the strategy, maybe some of the things will sound obvious now, but they were not that obvious when we thought about that. So, of course, building City Football Group is something that had never been done before, building a network of 13 football clubs around the world. So we didn't have much references. So in a way, that was good, because we had to look at it from a wide page and think about, what would it take to do such a thing. And then we looked at it from, as you would look at any other industry. And first you think about, okay, this is about fan engagement, but it's also about growing fans, right? Our objective was really to grow the group and to grow the different brands that we have within the group. And of course, Manchester City was meant to be the biggest one already at the time. Also because it's part of the Premier League, which is the biggest league in the world as well, right? So you look at, okay, so what is the next generation of fans that you're trying to attract, and understanding who they would be. And we very clearly settled at the time that we thought the next generation of fan is going to be female. So it's about going after female audiences.
It's a good bet now if you think about it.
You could. And then also attracting a young generation of fans for who fandom in many markets is more of a fluid concept, right? So it's not just about getting fans for who we were going to be the number one club, but who we were going to be one of the preferred football clubs they wanted to engage with. And of course, understanding in which markets we wanted to do that. So it's really about understanding the audiences. And then the other thing is about, okay, so how are we going to drive engagement? What's going to make people feel more interested in us? And probably realizing very quickly that football is about culture in many markets, right? So, and culture, it's football, it's music, it's game, it's lifestyle. So trying to build a brand that was going to be relevant in different geographies for football fans as a whole. So it sounds simple, but that's what we did. And then getting to very quickly to the conclusion that although we would play, 40, 50, 60 games per season, what we really do every single day of the year is creating content that was going to engage audiences every single day of the year. And that's actually what's been underpinning our strategies, hence as well the creation of City Studios more recently.
Yeah, I think you were the first clubs to do the Amazon All or Nothing as well. Did that inspire in a lot of ways what you've done with City Studios since?
So that's an interesting one as well. Probably as part of the strategy and the lack of references we had in trying to build something, we also realized that we couldn't just look at the world of football because, the most successful brands at the time, it would take us maybe 20 years to replicate what the others had done, right? And of course, we knew we were going to have a good football product. As in any industry, you need to have a good product. And we hoped and we built a team to actually be successful. But then we had to find strategies to make sure we could accelerate that growth, right? And All or Nothing actually was one of these ideas, right? So at the time, no one had gone behind the scenes of a football club in football. So this had been done in American football, in other sports, but not in football. And probably we were brave, bold enough, crazy enough, I would say as well, to do that in a season where you don't know what's going to be the outcome. I mean, that season was actually very good for us, but also getting behind the scenes and showing how we are, how we operate, the personalities of the players. That was tremendously successful. And then ever since, we've kept a team of content producers within our first team football facilities to capture the content through the season. And this is how we got actually to get the amazing content we've published as well just a few weeks ago on Netflix about the treble winning season, which was last season.
Yeah, it's fascinating. Like I said, it's fascinating the access you get, and we'll come on to that later, and we'll get to see some of the Netflix content at the end. What's been interesting for me is obviously we've talked about, I think it's clear you've had a consistent strategy right from the off and you've stayed true to that. And we've talked a little bit over the last few days about not being afraid to fail. We talked a little bit as well about technology and how technology's played a part in that strategy. Can you give us some insights into that?
Yeah, that's very interesting as well. We firmly believe, I mean, I must say it probably helps because my background is very much in tech and media. So I'd say, I love technology, but in this sense, for us, technology is embracing the opportunity to engage with fans globally in a completely different way. We know that just a small percentage of fans will ever make it to the Etihad Stadium. We know they can watch, of course, the games on TV and on other media, but how do you engage in a meaningful way and relevant way with global fans and a growing football fandom, right? In a way that works. And clearly technology has been helpful for us. And just a few examples, it goes from using technology like immersive technology, new experiences, but also new platforms. For instance, we've been the first football club to go onto Roblox, again, thinking about the next generation of fans. And we've got already 10 million visitors just on Roblox. And there's constant activation. Of course, some would say, well, but this is not football. Well, indeed, but it's a way to bring your brand where the audiences are. So that's how we did that. More recently, for instance, there's a new WhatsApp channel, which is actually has been, especially in certain markets, where WhatsApp is very, very strong. We've been among the first football clubs as well to jump on it. And actually with the first Premier League club already in terms of followers, I think 29 million followers already on that WhatsApp channel just in a few months, 10 million ahead of anyone else in the Premier League. And I think it's, again, not being afraid to test, to try. Of course, you also need to be ready to kill things when they don't work, but doubling down on the things that work and maybe killing the ones that, or downscaling the ones that don't work as much. But yeah, technology is a huge driver of everything we do to get to new audiences.
Yeah, it's clear you've been laser focused on that, and again, like I said, we chatted about that. It's hard being the first, right? I know people will look at that now and say Roblox and WhatsApp, yeah, they're no-brainers because everyone's doing it now. But how do you find a balance between bottom line and engagement? Because look, engagement is great, but people always talk about, how is it delivered for the bottom line? How do you decide, I guess, what's the most important?
Well, bottom line is fundamental. I mean, any business is in business to actually make money, of course. But when you want to grow a brand, you need to be ready to invest. And for us, what was clear is the investment we had to do was to grow audiences, to get in front of more people that would be interested in us. And by growing the audiences, you also create a better platform for your sponsors, a better platform for your own brand, and to have a meaningful story to tell. And then, of course, monetization and commercial opportunities will follow. I think what's also interesting is, and coming from an industry as I was coming, you don't realize that big global football brands like ours, their revenues from direct to consumer, B2C, are relatively small. It might be, only 10%, 15% of your revenues are B2C. By also growing more audiences and driving more people to your platforms and your channels, you have an opportunity to grow that part of the revenues as well. So, of course, everything needs to go down the funnel of trying to create commercial opportunities, but it's really about engaging audiences first. For me, that's the biggest definition of loyalty, in a way, in our football world.
I know you've been doing that through esports and gaming as well, which I think is the definition of, it's not necessarily direct revenue, but it's meaningful in terms of engagement.
Yeah, that's a very interesting one as well. We were among the first to believe in esports and gaming as a way to engage football audiences. Again, that feels so obvious now. And it's fair to say already that FIFA, now EA FC, was successful, but not to the level it is now, right? So we recruited esports players, but we also produced quite a lot of content around esports. We actually moved a bit aside of football, and we even have Fortnite players now, because this is where the next generation of fans is spending time. And for them, the worlds are colliding, whether it's gaming and sport and football and their passion is coming all together, right? And we just, actually a couple of weeks ago, won the Premier League again. So another trophy, a different one. But again, it shows like, you build an ecosystem where actually which you try to be where the future audiences and your future fans are going to be.
So now I'm interested in that, because when you build this ecosystem, and how do you see yourselves and how do you position yourselves as a brand? Because I see parallels, we chatted about this with the NBA, that's very much a media platform that plays American football. Sorry, I'm going to call it American football because I'm in the UK. When you were talking about a club, can you give some insights in terms of the inspirations that you've taken to be able to build the platform that you've built?
Yes, I think the NBA is definitely a very good reference. So some of the American sports as well. I think we do need to remember though that being authentic to the game and to the sport is very important. Otherwise, football fans don't forgive you if you start becoming too gimmicky. But this is where the brand is important and the brand strategy is important. So we actually, as part of that fast growth we took a bit of time to rethink about our brand strategy to make sure it was going to be a good platform for growth. And we came up with different things, but one of them is football is, of course, our product, and that's our world. But our ambition is to be an entertainment brand and entertaining audiences 365 days a year. And as a business, as City Football Group business, that's what we do. And we invest actually in other businesses around football and entertainment, right? So that's what we want to do. And basically, a lot of this entertainment comes through the content that we produce. The other things we decided as well is we need to be true to our values. And we came back, and of course, take Manchester City as an example. We carry the name of Manchester and Manchester City. So being proud of being from Manchester is important. And let's take those values from Manchester that can resonate globally. And it's a blue-collar city, hard-working city with a lot of greed, water, that has transformed itself as well over the last few years. So trying to take those values and make them resonate globally. So we're very proud of being from Manchester, and we came up with these 4 values that, of course, finish in city, just in case you didn't notice when I'm going to spell them out. But it's authenticity. It's important to remain authentic. Audacity, tenacity, and electricity. The passion that we want to convey, right? And by staying true to these values, that's how we think we're making a good platform for growth.
Yeah, look, I live in Manchester, so I can see how you've done that. I'm surrounded by City fans. As a Burnley fan, obviously it breaks my heart, but there you go. I'm intrigued by the tone of voice that you're talking about as well, because obviously we talk about digital transformation. There's a lot of parts to that. How did you come to that conclusion? Can you explain how you got there with that? Because obviously the things you've talked about there, it's hard to find a tone of voice, right?
Well, the tone of voice is also intrinsic to the transformation we've done. And it's finding the right tone for the right type of content. But again, talking about being relevant and culturally relevant, you need to learn not to take yourself too seriously. We've been the underdog for quite a while, right? And we've been challengers. I wouldn't describe ourselves as challengers now anymore, right? Because we kind of well established in that league of successful football clubs, although it happened very quickly. But it's finding this tongue-in-cheek approach, being fun, being lighthearted, being also actually what football fans want as well, right? And recognizing when things work, when things don't work, being authentic as well in that tone of voice. If your team is losing, actually you're trying to persuade them that you're winning. I mean, that doesn't work, right? I mean, the audiences will judge you for that. So just be with the audiences, remain authentic to that.
I can see that. I think the thing that fascinates me as well is we talk about the tone of voice, but I think it's consistent with the visual experience as well. And I find that fascinating how you've managed to maintain that balance between looking to try and reach out to new fans, but also maintaining your heritage and history. I'm guessing that was intentional, right?
Yeah, 100%. As I said, that was part of the brand work we did. The industriousness of Manchester, that raw imperfection as well in the look and feel of the city, trying to bring it into our brand. And yeah, the look and feel comes across in a very consistent way across everything we do, day-to-day content, the activations, the event on pitch, the experience in stadium. Yeah, I mean, again, it sounds obvious. You reflect back. It's been a journey, right? And it's been a progressive journey where, by the way, making sure our fans in Manchester and the fans that have been there for decades felt that transformation was authentic and was speaking to them. That's the one actually that makes me feel proud as well, that not only we've been able to resonate with global growing audiences, but as well with the fans from Manchester that have followed us for generations.
Yeah, like I said, I can definitely support that because I live around enough of them you don't hear a lot of the sort of the moans and the whinges that you do hear about potentially some other clubs in different types of ownership models. You get the sense of that. We're very much talking about success here, though. What happens when things go wrong?
I mean, I could say many that have gone wrong, but in balance, we have this rule internally, and that permeates into our culture, that we truly believe in test and learn. We're not afraid of taking measured risk, because in any business, but we are allowed to make mistakes. You can correct them. You need to learn from them. Sometimes, it's funny, mistakes happen because you've tried things halfway instead of going full blown, right? And sometimes you're too timid, sometimes you're too bold. But let me give you an example. For instance, we came up with this concept of trophy tour. Very privileged that we won the Premier League now quite a few times in the last few years. And I realized by looking to engage with audiences globally, of course, digital content is fundamental, but being close to the club is also important. So we said, let's take that trophy to the fans. Very obvious, right? Logistically very complicated. But we actually been traveling for these trophies, engaged, and we've been doing ever since. Every time we won, last year we did it with the 3 trophies. It came with also even more complexities, but that's where we started small and we saw it was being well received, so we went bigger every year, right? And it has become a great commercial platform as well. So it's good for the fans, it's good for the sponsor, it's good for the brand. So it's finding those combinations that work for everyone.
Absolutely. It's a good balance between the digital and the physical. So I thought we could delve in some of the specifics of what you actually do to activate these ideas. So we've got a video here, which is Matchday Live, and we can talk about that straight after.
And we're very happy to have our fans from around the world joining us as well. Hello to you all, give us a wave. Matt has said, if the panel could pick one player from our treble team to play in the 99 team, who would it be and why? You're not going to say Edison because that means you weren't played. You're not going to say Haaland because that means you weren't played.
Bonnie, here we are. Bonnie, how are you?
We've got some real guests now.
Now, there's been a lot of excitement, a lot of great social media work by the Man City team on a signing. Oscar Bob.
Our 2 goal scorers, Jess, I'll begin with you. 2 goals and assist. How pleased are you with your performance? Player of the match as well. Congratulations.
Yeah, I'm absolutely buzzing, but like I said before, the girls help me do that with the confidence that they give me to play.
Well, as everyone knows, I'm a massive fan of Oscar Bob anyway, so I'm glad to see the way he's going, and the way he's been weaned in and weaned out is a similar trajectory of say, a Phil Foden when he first broke through. He's been patient, but every time he does get on the pitch, he seems to be taking his chances.
The great stat here, if we do win today and we manage to get to the semi-final, that will mean City become the first team in FA Cup history to reach the semi-finals in 6 consecutive campaigns.
I never knew that.
It's amazing stats, but domination.
You didn't know a stat.
We got one. We found one.
You can see how fans are baked into basically how you create the Matchday Live experience, and that's one of the main things that we work together on. We don't see that many clubs, I'm not just talking about the Premier League, but just in general globally, who are taking this approach to content, especially when you see some of the sort of the content creators are out there. First of all, can you explain to us what Matchday Live is? I know you're surprised that you're not seeing more of this type of content out there.
So it's interesting. Matchday Live actually started as an idea we had for a while, actually. But when is the right time to do the investment? And we actually said, when COVID started and fans were not going to stadium, we said, this is probably the right time to trial this.
We're not really here.
We're not really here. And we called it We're Not Really Here, which is, a Manchester City fan song, for those which I thought was quite ironic, calling We're Not Really Here. There were no fans in stadium. And we started with that, and literally with a table in the middle of our offices. We didn't even have a studio at the time.
The look and feel is totally different now to what we did to what we did then.
Poor when I look at it now. But it started as a way to say we need to engage with fans. We need to bring the voice of the club. We need to find a way for them to be part of the matchday experience, because matchday is still the rhythm of the engagement through the week for us. And we got tremendous success. And then after COVID, we said we need to make that first more professional, and we need to convert it into a real good content platform for us as a brand, for sponsors, for partners, and everyone. And this is bringing our tone of voice. This is talking about what the fans are talking about. With what we do with you at Display as well, is giving it a look and feel content-wise, where you see the fans interacting, asking questions, what they say on social media, how they come through the screen. So it's really the voice of the fans through the match day, It's for them. It starts an hour and a half before the game. At halftime, you come back. It's after the game. And it creates huge content as well for the rest of the week as well. So for us, from an editorial point of view, it has become more efficient as well in terms of working, although it wasn't obvious at the beginning when we decided to start. So I think this is a great example of how you think differently. And you're right, there's not many examples out there. There's maybe 2-3 other clubs I've seen doing that, but consistently, every week, every game. We do it now for women's games as well. We now do some programming, not always live, in Spanish as well. So we just keep on growing that platform to bring more fans closer to the club.
Yeah, you can see there the videos as well that, like I said, it's men's, it's women's, it's youth. Match day live is any match day. So it gives so many content opportunities. And I know you're doing things around managers' press conferences and sort of suppose any opportunity that arrives during the course of the week. It's, you don't have to be a linear channel, right? But you can create programming that's done in a broadcast manner, I guess, or it's certainly the level of quality that people expect from content now.
Well, probably that's one of the advantages. We didn't have the legacy of having a TV channel, linear channel, which others had. And we looked at the numbers and we said, if we have the opportunity to decide, let's decide not to do it. Because it's very costly and it's probably not what the audiences want now, the way they want to engage. They want to engage through social. And from social, bring them to our own platforms. And that's what we've been doing with Matchday Live.
So a challenge with much of this, and we'll show the Netflix video at the end, but a challenge with much of this is access. And I'm sure there's people in the room who work at the football clubs, we've worked in football clubs, and I certainly have. And almost I'd live my life begging the manager to give me access to players. So, what's it like trying to get access from Pep?
Good luck. Well, there's a really good team dynamic at every level in the business. I must say we work very closely with football, but football is still football. And let's be clear, they dare to play games. They are athletes, elite athletes. And usually when they see us coming close, they know trouble is coming, right? They're not actors. So it's about how do you find a right environment for them to thrive and to feel comfortable doing the content we're asking them to do, or actually that fans want to see from them. They want to see the personalities, the characters behind the football players, right? And we know this is important. So it's taken a lot of trust. As I said earlier, we have an embedded content team that lives and breathes and follows the rhythm of that football team. But it's a lot of trust, is a small team of trusted people. But also it's interesting, the evolution through the years I've seen is now the cameras have become one more player. So actually what you saw maybe at the beginning and some of the trailer, you'd see some of the things. Of course, sometimes you're just a fly on the wall, but sometimes actually the cameras, one more player, they play with it, they talk to the camera. When they do their own games, they want to watch it again to see because they're so competitive. Did he win? Was it offside when they play themselves, right? So it has become part of the facilities and the infrastructure, and I think this is when you actually make it right.
And look, it's clear that it comes across as authentic and credible, and it's interesting that with the access that you're now getting to the team behind the scenes, I'm imagining that that's going to help with sponsor activations as well. Obviously, there was a chat about that earlier about we don't want to badge things, we want to be embedded within it. How have you found that's helped in terms of how you're activating the partners and sponsors around the club?
Yeah, this world has transformed as well. So sponsors, partners have become a lot more sophisticated. And this is a world that is evolving. Mark was referencing some of the work we do with Gatorade. It's not anymore about LED display. It's not anymore about badging brands, but creating meaningful stories. So by having a better understanding of the business, what the players like, how they behave, the chemistries between the different players as well. When and the creation of City Studios. So City Studios is not a studio. I mean, the facility itself is just one element of it. It's about an in-house creative team that thinks about stories, branded content, and bring it to life in a way that feels authentic to the brand and to the sponsor's objectives. So we're coming up with new ways of activating partners and more flexible as well, because it happens in our training facilities. We're very lucky. We have our offices and training facilities all in one place in Manchester. So that makes it far easier and has become a real success story for our partners too.
It's a rare thing and a hard thing to achieve, I think, but it definitely comes through in the content that you're producing. So last thing before we try and get some questions in as well. So really putting you on the spot here. what do you think is the next for content in this space and beyond? Is there anything that you'd want to share that you're thinking of doing, or any idea, or things that you've seen other people do you think we'd like to have a crack at that?
Well, I don't really know. The answer is I probably expect that there's going to be a lot more coming up about immersive experiences. That's my dream. I think technology is evolving now at a pace where it's finally going to happen, and bring those fans from afar even closer. But probably what I'm sure we're going to keep on doing is we're going to keep having an open mindset and trying new things, basically. That's what I'm sure about. Because you don't know what the next big thing is going to be until probably you try it and see how you can bring it to life.
Yeah, we can second that from our own personal experience. Always open-minded, always suggesting things, always willing to listen. So that's certainly been great from our perspective. I think we've got a minute left, so we can maybe get a couple of questions. I'll go with the first one. So is all content made in-house by City Studio, or do you partner with out-of-house content creators as well? If so, why?
We do both. Not all content is done by City Studio, more and more, but finding the right influencers, content creators, voices that can speak authentically about the club is also important. Of course, we also have external agencies, freelancers, and some of the partners as well have their own agencies, right? Probably the one element is what I said, is that I don't believe just in having celebrities or big influencers just because they have big following. For us, it's about making sure it's authentic. Ideally, I don't want to pay for them. Ideally, I want them to be really City fans or New York City fans or Melbourne City fans, right? So they convey an authentic voice in their content.
Well, we're in minus time now, so I can't ask any more questions. But look, thank you so much, Nuria, and thank you for your questions as well.
Thank you.
Now, before you go, if you liked what you heard today, be sure to rate and review and just let me know what you think on social. You can find me on most social platforms as SportsPro Nick. And please do spread the word of the podcast. There's no better way of marketing than word of mouth, whether that be in person or on social media. And if you don't like what you've heard, or you think we should be doing more or less of something, then reach out and let me know, as I'd love to hear from you. Thanks, Dreamtimers. Until next time.